In today's world, communicating accurately and effectively has become even more important than ever. In fact, game-changing research involving a myriad of disciplines, such as the ones done by Iwo Nano, are made possible with good science communication. So what is science communication? Helping us to understand better, let's welcome Iwo Nano's Impact Team. So Miranda, Matimba, and Shamli, thank you so much for joining us today and for spending some time to share on science communication.
Thank you for having us. Wonderful to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we start, how is everyone good? How is everyone doing? All good?
Yeah, so
Yeah, good. Yeah, very good. Excited to talk about Iwo Nano and excited to be with you today. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
yeah, excited to all be doing this together as well. I think this is the first time we've all been interviewed together.
Together.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for letting me host you guys as well. So let's quickly jump into the questions. First, what are the aims of science communication and why is it important?
I would say, this is Miranda here, I would say that probably more so than at any point in history are our lives influenced by technology. Technology is built on science. So I think there's almost a right that people who are not scientists or technologists or engineers know and understand the basis of science. And generally, research is paid for with public money. So I think from that perspective as well, the general public, that's a very wide net, have a right to know, where that money's being spent, how that money's being spent. So yeah, that's why I would say it's important.
Yeah, I definitely would agree. I think science communication is for the public, but also to communicate within different disciplines as well. In terms of why that's important, I think, well, the Iwo Nano is a great example of it. It's an interdisciplinary team made up of computer scientists, biologists, chemists, physicists, loads of people from loads of different backgrounds. And in order for them to talk to each other, sometimes you need a very high level form of communication. When you're doing something and you're engrossed in it and you know what it is, you end up having a language that you speak, but that language may not translate to other disciplines as well. So I think that helps so much, and it helps us move the field forward too.
Yeah, so picking up from what Matimba had said, science communication can be done in so many different forms, like using the media that we have. So one would be social media like YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. And through Iwo Nano also, we've tried to touch almost every strata of society, all the way from clinicians, hospitals, industries, to even university and school students. So the art of breaking down complicated research to simplified terms for the general public, that is a huge impact that science communication does in general. And I believe it is important for the public to know the importance of science and in the world that we live today.
Right. And I'd just like to ask a little bit more on that question because I know Matimba is a PhD candidate and Shamli is doing a master's while working and being part of Iwo Nano. So in terms of you guys as emerging scientists, why do you find that science communication is important?
So I currently am based in the engineering department, and I have a second supervisor in the Centre for Medical Ethics in the medical school at Bristol. And I don't have an engineering background, and
Right.
there's a whole different language I think they speak in engineering as well. So I think science communication helps like me in my current job right now in order to convey what I'm doing. So we have like a weekly meeting, swarm lunch, and during that time, different people will present. And because you're presenting to people who may not necessarily have the same background, so if one of the engineers or computer scientists is presenting, they have to change the language slightly so everybody can understand. And it's the same for me. When I'm presenting, I have to change language slightly so everybody can understand, because not everybody is doing looking at ethics and regulations of nanomedicine. So I feel like I use it really every day.
So I can totally relate to that. I come from a physics undergrad background, and from there I went on to follow my passion in robotics. So definitely when I first started my advent in robotics, definitely science communication has played a huge role in helping me getting across difficult concepts. And even if it is for people in the robotics field already from before itself, there are always new adventing technologies that keep coming in place. So science communication is a great way in letting people in the field know about the technology as well as educating the general public. And moreover, if I have to talk about Iwo Nano and cancer nanomedicine to a friend of mine, they might be a person who is like not at all related to this field. So me just breaking down that into simple terms and making them understand the importance of this. There itself you can see science communication. So
Yeah. And just I think there's like a famous quote that everybody talks about. It's Einstein, the one where it's like, if you can't explain your theory to a 6-year-old, then you don't understand it. So I do think if I can't explain my PhD to my nephew, then I really don't understand it.
I think you guys brought up really important things, because like your masters, your PhDs are eventually going to transition to something bigger. So I think it's really great, because I know that Iwo Nano also has PhD candidates, and they're all contributing part of their PhD work to something greater, which is, working on cancer research, which I think is excellent. So moving on, like, why is it important to think about your intended audience? I think you guys did touch on it already. So to follow up with that, is there any problems with audience segmentation?
Yeah, I think both Matimba and Shamli did touch on kind of why it's important to think about your audience. I think generally that is just a good idea whenever anybody's communicating anything. I think putting things within a context that somebody will understand, making it useful to them in their lives is a really important thing when you're thinking about science communication. It is slightly worrying that obviously we have so many tools now to be able to find out information about people, their background, what they do. I think one of the good things about science, or at least one of its values, even if maybe it falls short sometimes, is that it's open to all and accessible to all. Anybody can be a scientist. So sometimes I think maybe audience segmentation is actually stops people from engaging with something that maybe they didn't know that they wanted to engage with. Maybe it's not as available to them as it should be, and sometimes those things can get a bit kind of boxed up, so to speak. So yeah, that's why I would say that at the same time as making sure that what you do is tailored to your audience, that you are making it accessible and inclusive, in order to kind of somebody says, oh, I don't like physics, for example. Well, but do you know that physics is going to space, you know, and maybe, you know, they would like that, and it would be a shame for them to miss out on that.
So adding to that point, I'll talk from the school's perspective. Like to a 10-year-old or to a 15-year-old, if you just directly go and present a huge research paper in front of them, they are going to be completely blank. Like they would completely understand what's going on. They might just pick up a few terms here and there. So from Iwo Nano, we're actually doing schools outreach as well. And as part of that, we created a board game as well as a virtual game using picture blocks. So that is because we know who our intended audience is, and we tailored the game or the material to present before them according to that, so that they can learn science in a fun way and manner and understanding it better. So I think that is a great example of why we should know our intended audience.
I think Miranda and Shamli really covered like everything. I think when it comes to targeting, it's something that we do naturally. The way you speak to your parents is different to the way you would speak to your friends, versus the way you speak from maybe in a work or a school setting. So that's part of the way we communicate anyway. And I think in terms of problems with audience segmentation that can happen is if you put people in the wrong place when you're segmenting. So sometimes it's like almost like you have to get it like just right, the Goldilocks effect, right? Like you don't want to put people in like this whole like where it's too broad and it's not targeted versus like where it's so specific, like narrowed down to like, oh, yeah, this person that lives in this location that likes this or likes that. Like it's being able to get that just right that's important.
Yeah, I think there are many things that makes it important, not just as Shamli and Miranda have pointed out, like having board games for children so that they don't miss out on just saying, oh, I don't like physics, so I don't want to do this, when they're actually missing out the whole point. It's not just physics as in E equals mc square or anything like that. It's like what you can do with physics. And I think, Matimba, you also mentioned something very important previously, was that actually even not just kids, but I think even as adults, even as PhD candidates, we don't know everything. There are fields that we're not sure of. So it's really important for all of us to understand science communication better so that we can easily transition, especially now with a lot of merging between the fields, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk more about Iwo Nano. Like, how is science communication, used at Iwo Nano, and what has been the impact besides the kids and?
Well, I mean, the board game was also used on university students. So
okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's not just kids that like games. I mean, I love board games too. But I think so. There's several things that we use. There's the website, which contains like various blog posts, and that's the first point where a lot of people will go to learn about Iwo Nano. So when you Google Iwo Nano, if you want to just like contact us, like the website is that first like channel really that people look at. And then there's all the social media sites, and that is very different because different audiences use different platforms for different things. So LinkedIn is a lot more of a professional site versus Twitter, where you can do things in real time. So when we had our workshop on the 16th of March, we were able to live tweet everything that was going on, but you wouldn't do that on LinkedIn. And then we also have our Instagram, where we had various interviews for National Careers Week, and then there's YouTube, where we'll be seeing this video and various other videos, and that's a visual platform, and that gives people a visual to look at as well. So it's communicating with people in different ways through various channels and coming up with new ideas of how we can really tell people about cancer nanomedicine and what we're doing.
Right.
Yeah, good. Thank you. We've also done, Matimba mentioned briefly, we organised a workshop for, particularly people in the scientific community, but also the general public, and then, funding bodies or regulatory bodies, people working in industry as well as in commercial side as well as academia. So that was great, and yeah, it was brilliant to live tweet about that and really get the word out. And then we've already talked a little bit, Shamli particularly talked about some schools outreach we've organised that we've been trialling with various groups, and so that'll be fun. That's just a bit of an introduction to nanomedicine and nanoparticles. There's a few activities. The main ones are playing a board game to try and treat a cancer tumour, and then playing a virtual game on a programming platform called PictoBlocks.
Oh, okay.
Where they have to program nanoparticles to destroy the tumor cells. So yeah, that's been our main focus, making sure that we get the results out there, and then organising a workshop to kind of telling everybody about the final results and the methodologies of the project, and then yeah, some schools outreach which we are doing next week. And then we'll hopefully be able to get that out there for people to use, teachers and parents and other educators that work with young people.
I think it's really great how you guys actually not just look at the audience, like where are they coming from? Are they children? Are they scientists? Are they parents? But you've also actually covered like their preferences. Like, do they prefer to listen? Do they prefer to see, or do they prefer to read?
Mhm.
I think that's great, and I think that's really important as well. And how people hands-on with workshops, I think that's really great. Shamli, do you have anything to add?
Both of them have covered almost everything, and they've explained it really well. So yes, we ourselves are amazed at, like, in such a short time that we were able to do this much, and our team has been working well together. That is the main reason behind this. We're all in sync. We've all been understanding well. Yeah, it's all been going well so far. The social media platforms, the interviews for Careers Week and Science Week, the Industry Day, everything has been going well so far, and we're excited about outreach next week. So,
Yeah, it's very exciting.
I guess it's always great to work with motivated people and people willing to learn, and it's just great to see the chemistry among you guys. It's like really, it's just standing here, it's like really amazing. So yeah, so let's move on to actually the fourth question, coming to a little bit more about science communication in general. So why is like science communication only gaining like attention now? Because we've always had scientists and they've always been communicating their research, which is why we have so much of advancement today. So why is it only now that people are talking so much about it?
I mean, I would definitely say that general science, technology, engineering, medicine jobs are increasing rapidly. I would guess around the world. I was just reading a report the other day about the UK, and you can definitely see like huge upward trends. And in fact, the report was saying that levels of those kind of jobs that are available are higher than record levels and higher than they were pre-COVID. So I think we've already talked about how important science communication is, not just to kind of communicate to kind of non-expert audiences, but also within science, because everything's so cross-disciplinary. So as you guys mentioned as well, you might be an expert in something, but maybe not something else. So, I think all of that contributes to science communication being really necessary. you know, I can definitely see as well that, you know, science is just a bit more fashionable maybe, and you know, if more people become more interested in it, there's more of a need for them to be communicated with about it. That would be my perspective.
Yeah, I also think technology has a big part to play in it. So, I mean, the way Aristotle would have communicated and Darwin, when he published like Origin of Species, was very different to today, and having access to the internet, and you know, more people can read about certain things as well. I think that's a contributor as well to the growth in science communication. And I think it's different as well depending on where you are in the world. There are some places where it's much more I guess advanced, maybe, I don't know if that's the right word, or it's just more common than in other places. So I could just see it growing in the future, the need for it. And I think for people to do it, you don't actually have to be a scientist. I think you have to be good at communicating your knowledge, like communicating things to people and being able to translate that and do it in creative ways. As you mentioned earlier, Miranda, I think, with using like several different platforms. I think that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I think as well what we've been saying about social media and the kind of different ways, as you mentioned, Jayshree, the different ways that the different social media platforms can engage you to whatever kind of way that you're learning. I think it just makes everything more accessible as well and a bit more immediate. And so maybe everybody's just cottoning on to what everybody on this call knows, which is that it's all very exciting and it's good to know about it and it's good to be involved in it. And yeah, I wonder. Yeah. It definitely makes it accessible.
And I think Jayshree said about how some people like to listen, some people like to
exactly.
Some people like different visuals. So I think that plays a huge part in it too.
Yeah, it's like catering to different kinds of audiences. Yeah, like it's like people have different ways of learning styles, right? Some prefer visual, some prefer audio. And also, if you look at the advent of technology, like earlier, maybe it was like only radio. There was a time like that. Then from there, we came to television and then social media. Social media is like on high boom right now. How many YouTubers do you see around you?
Yeah.
So, and moreover, education is just becoming more and more accessible. Like still there are countries and parts of the world where many people are not getting the complete education. But even then, I think we can see a positive future in that sense, that education is becoming more and more accessible to whether it's rural or urban areas, and even maybe new different kinds of media would arise in the future, like virtual reality, augmented reality, and things like that. So science communication will keep traveling in different forms of media to communicate to the public. That is what I feel. And yeah, Miranda has covered all the important points.
Yeah, I think there are many important points that's brought out. And just to add to what Shamli said, I think, the society is becoming more intelligent. I mean, today, we wouldn't just walk up to a doctor and if he says, take this medicine, like, yeah, okay, we'd say why, how, how does it work? And yeah, I think, I'm not sure if this happened in England, but in Japan, when we're given the booster for our COVID vaccines, they actually attached the paper for citation. The very famous The Lancet publication that had been circulating. So everybody in Japan was informed that this is the paper that they referred to for the information that they gave.
Oh.
So it's like
really interesting. Yeah.
Wow, I haven't heard of something like that before.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not fully sure about it in the UK because I actually had my vaccines when I lived in Madrid, so they didn't do that. But I think that's cool though, because I do think people want to read papers. They want to see it. They want to see that information. COVID has like really got a lot of people more interested and asking questions
That's right.
about the science, which I think we haven't really seen that before.
Right. So, you guys are interacting with various kinds of people from various different backgrounds. So I think one thing that people tend to say is that scientists or STEM majors have problems in communicating their work. What are your thoughts on it?
Like I guess it depends. There are people who definitely may not. It depends who they're communicating to. If that makes sense, because some people don't have problems communicating with their peers and doing like publications and talking at conferences, and I think it's more when it changes audiences. There may be some people who don't have that training, but right now universities are offering more of that, and people are starting to see the importance of being able to talk to a variety of different audiences about your work.
Yeah, and I think people shouldn't be expected to be able to do everything. Obviously, we've talked quite a lot today about how actually it is important to be able to communicate your work. Talked about Einstein's quote, talked about cross-disciplinary, talked about the kind of communicating with the general public and why that's important. But, I think it is a bit unfair that everybody should be expected to do everything. Obviously, teaching and research generally go hand in hand. Most of the time, people are doing both at universities. But that's not always the case. You can go on kind of more research or more teaching tracks. So, I think that there is a role for kind of standalone science communicators. I mean, I don't think I know one scientist who is so busy, and if we can kind of help support that a little bit, I think that's quite nice.
Yeah, so basically everybody would be having their own strengths and weaknesses, right? So when they have to really spend their time focusing on research and teaching, like there will be scientists who are good at science communication, but there might be scientists who not really know how to communicate, but they're really passionate about science. Right. So science communicators are there to help them, to support the team and to get the information across. So definitely teamwork is what gets across all this information successfully. So it acts hand in hand. It all acts complementary to each other. So
right. And are there specializations in science communication majors?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, there are, but I also think sometimes science communication gets lumped in with like journalism, with marketing. So it depends on the industry, and it depends on the company as well. Because it's such, in some industries it's such a broad term as well. So they're like, yeah, we're doing science communication, and then they're actually doing maybe marketing instead. I think as everything is like developing and things are becoming more defined, then we're going to see a change and a shift in that.
Yeah. If I have to talk about the structure in general, like there are a couple of UK universities that offer masters in science and health communication. So just like Matumba said, they have elective options. So definitely they'll have the core subjects like introduction to science communication and the major chunks. But then in the electives, each student can choose which pathway they are talented in and they are good at expressing in. So that could be like journalism or marketing, science writing alone. So there are different options like that. And their projects involve individual and group projects, which gives them hands-on experience as well. So that's how usually the structure of a master's program is.
Right, so they'll be teaching the technical parts of communication.
Yeah, the
Right.
syllabus could vary from university to university. So I guess
Right.
there are so many different combinations for every
Yeah.
you can look according to each person's liking.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, as we just said, there's rise of different social medias. There's, 30 years ago, digital media wasn't a thing really. So yeah, those are the, you can do different specialisms, and there will definitely be new ones coming along as new ways of communicating things emerge.
Right. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about what Matimba had already touched on. So like in science communication, we usually focus it on STEM majors, because they have the advantage of knowing the scientific knowledge, but what about those like communication majors who have technical knowledge in like journalism, public relations? So can they become science communicators? And what are the challenges that they need to overcome, and how do they best prepare for them?
Yeah, I would say that, yeah, it's definitely possible. I think, that obviously the thing is that even if you are a scientist, you're not going to know, in any detail, all of science or all of technology or all of engineering, or, or definitely not all of STEM. So there will be things that you have to write about or communicate in some way that you don't have a background in anyway. So I think it's definitely possible to come at it from other directions. There's possibly things that you get from the kind of methodology of doing science that maybe you understand, if you've done science, that's useful when you're communicating it. But yeah, I mean that's what I would say.
Yeah, I would agree completely. I think there's no one can know everything. One of the things that I learned when I was doing my MBA is that a CEO does not know, like if you try and know everything, you try and control everything, your company will fail. You have to delegate and you play to people's strengths. So if you have someone who maybe doesn't have a science background but has a public relations background or has a journalism background, you play to those strengths, you use them. As I think Miranda said earlier, that you can't expect researchers to know absolutely everything. So they have their strengths in their research, and that's what we need to use them for, and use that strength. And it's just working with different people. I think there's the thing that you really need is being able to collaborate. The more soft skills, like being able to manage different stakeholders, that is key, I think, to going into a career in science communication.
Okay, so something that I would like to add from my experiences, with the rise of interdisciplinary courses and disciplines coming up, we are required to expose ourselves to a lot of different fields. So I think the key is to have an
Right.
open mind to learning and to welcome new concepts. Like we already told about our experience, like my master's from different discipline, and then also Matimba had that entire journey from biology to robotics and everything. So there also we were required to learn. So I think it is passion that drove us till here. And coming to Iwo Nano itself, especially me, I was not related to the cancer domain, but this
Yeah.
months of working in Iwo Nano has given me so much knowledge about cancer and nanomedicine. Definitely, it was difficult in the beginning. I was not able to understand all the concepts and everything. But over time, because for our love of doing this job, definitely it has educated me a lot, and I am able to pass on this knowledge to others as well.
Yeah.
So, anybody with passion can come into this field. That is what I would like to say.
Completely
That's so
agree.
true.
And
Right. So
I think, oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with Shamli. Yeah, Matimba, you were saying.
I was going to agree with Shamli too.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that. But I mean, I've never done a podcast, for example, so this is my first time doing this. And then with the games as well, that was something completely new. So even if you come in with some level of knowledge of like, I don't know, Iwo Nano or cancer nanomedicine, there's still so much you can learn, and I feel like I personally have learned a lot as well. From both Miranda and Shamli. Like, yeah, they've taught me a lot.
Learned a lot from you both.
Oh, you guys so sweet.
Great team, amazing team.
Learned so much. Yeah.
I think everyone who's watching this video is going to be very jealous of me for being with three of you guys. So too bad, guys. So
Yeah.
So moving on, actually, when like looking at science communication as a career, you know, what kind of industries can like science communicators consider?
I think it's interesting what Matimba said, actually, because in terms of like people saying that marketing is science communication, because there's definitely agencies out there and commercial industries that employ science writers and science communicators. So there's kind of that aspect of it, which is kind of, you know, medical writing, for example. I mean, you know, traditionally people do, you know, this kind of more broadcasting, more kind of written science communication, more delivery. So, you know, working in science museums, science centers, observatories, things like that. So yeah, there's a really wide range. Obviously, we're doing science communication for a kind of funded project, EU funded project. So there's that kind of thing as well. Yeah, huge range.
Yeah, I definitely think there are so many possibilities, and I think this is something I said during my Instagram interview, is that the jobs that exist today will change, because some of the jobs that today did not exist 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I mean, before the 90s, there was no Google, so like there's so many things that just didn't exist that do exist now, and there's things that I think people don't think about as kind of either science communication or medical writing. So, for example, when you pick up your paracetamol box that tells you to take 2 tablets a day, that has been changed from a very complex protocol into take 2 tablets a day with water. And that is done by somebody as well, and that's a job, and that's a role, and that's something that people don't think about, and that's something that you see every day. So there are multiple channels and multiple jobs that you can do.
Right. So I think there's like a really great like potential as a, like future potential for science communication. People can go into, I think Matimba, you brought out something that's quite important, because I don't think like package designing, instructions, I think those would probably be done by like public relation companies, as opposed to like the exact pharmaceutical company, like how does the product look like. So I think even not just the conventional like research institutes or research teams like Iwo Nano, and not just pharmaceutical companies like for paracetamol, but also like public relation companies, like how do these products get advertised. Like, of course, like Iwo Nano is lucky because they have their own team to kind of do this, but I think like in larger like companies like pharmaceutical companies or like healthcare companies, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge, I think. So people can actually work into public relations, I think. Yeah,
I think Marissa mentioned it earlier about agencies, and I know a lot of pharmaceutical companies do work with different marketing agencies and public relations and a whole host of different vendors.
Right. So I would like to ask a little bit more about Iwo Nano, actually. I maybe, I hope we have just enough time to highlight a little bit more about Iwo Nano, because I know you guys are using science communication to share what Iwo Nano is doing with kids, with university students, with scientists, with clinicians, and doing workshops. But do you convert, like, do you share this knowledge like with potential patients? Like, and do you think that's important?
Yeah, we've definitely been trying to kind of share it with kind of more of the general public. Obviously, and obviously cancers, a lot of people will have cancer. Obviously it's, the framing is tricky because it's something that is deeply distressing to a lot of people who are going through something like that. But then again, it is something which, has the potential to save a lot of lives. So yeah, we've definitely been trying to do that. I think that's important. Also nano, just using the word nano has a lot of connotations. A lot of people think of a lot of different things when they think of that word, and so definitely a little bit of what we're trying to do is kind of say, right, well, one, they're really thinking about the safety and the kind of impact of using this kind of thing. It's highly regulated as a field. But then also say, actually, this could lead to better targeted and personalized medicine, which I think everybody kind of a lot of people understand is kind of a good thing within medicine. But yeah.
Yeah,
We have a what is series as well, specifically just to go through what is cancer, what is nanotechnology, what is cancer nanomedicine, what is Iwo Nano, just to put that out there as well.
yeah. So through our Instagram page, Cancer Nano, one thing we also try to do is we have these weekly campaigns kind of thing, where we try to break the myths around cancer and nanomedicine, because there might be people who have a scary image of it. And I have personally spoken to cancer warriors and people who are struggling with it right now, and they
That's
were
great.
fascinated about Iwo Nano and the whole project. So that I am the people that I spoke to, that there are quite a lot of people who are really hoping to see this in real. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think like it must be really, you must be going through like challenges, because I think it's not just robotics and bio. I have to be honest, like when I went through the um, Iwo Nano material, I understood the bio of it, the robotics, and you guys are also working with AI, right? Like
Yeah.
those are completely foreign to me. So it's great to have like, so I think it must be a real challenge for you guys to like work around like all these sectors. So it's really great. I think like definitely it was amazing to have you guys share with us, because I think there's just so many things that we can learn from. And eventually, if people who are inspired to go into science communication can definitely look up to you guys, working with biophysics, robotics, AI, as well as literally communicating these things with the public. It's I can't imagine like the challenge. So it's absolutely great. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been really fun, and and I think how cross-disciplinary this involves 7 different partners. It is a really exciting time to be working in science and science communication, and it's been really nice talking about it this morning. Thanks so much, Jason.
You're a great host. Thank you so much for the absolutely brilliant questions, and all of us were able to give our fair share of contributions, and we've covered everything. That is really good. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's so lovely speaking to you virtually, and hopefully one day we'll meet in Japan and get some food.
Yeah, let's do that. Right. So I think before we end today's video, just would like to, people might be inspired, as I said, like to work towards doing science communication or going into cancer research. So what's the best way to contact Iwo Nano? Or any of you guys?
So I guess even Iwo Nano's website as well. We have a contact us there, and anybody can get in touch and ask us questions. So that's iwonano.edu.
Yeah, or on Twitter or Instagram, send us a private direct message. Yeah, but yeah, do if you're inspired, please do.
Yeah, at Iwo Nano on Twitter and cancer.nano on Instagram.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it directly from Iwo Nano's impact team. If you are interested, do please reach out to them. They're on Instagram, Twitter, as well as their own website. So do please reach out if you're interested in science communication or if you're even interested in cancer research. So that's all for today. Ladies, thank you so much for spending your morning with me. And thank you so much for allowing me to host you guys.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been really fun. Thanks everybody for watching and listening.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Right, take care, stay safe, and hope to hear from you soon.